Okay, so good morning to the Fife Property Show this morning. We're going to be talking about winning over the market. So what do I mean by that? This is 5 reasons why you're better off selling your home when prices cool. Why would you be better off selling your home when prices cool? Well, let's find all about this. Find out all about this. How do you feel about the property market right now, Andrea?
Well, I think, that's all these predictions that have been in the press and the daily claims from experts that house prices are about to fall off a cliff. They're going to stagnate, they're going to slowly rise. And we know that most of these predictions are going to be wrong, but we don't know which ones.
It's the prophet of doom, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like every single time you hear on the news, the only thing the news want to spread is the negative news, because the pain points are the ones that drive their traction and drive their activity as well. All the news is interested in is either getting as much eyeballs on what they're doing as possible, regardless of what they're saying. Most of them are selling you advertising, remember. That's their business. The business of the newspapers and online newspapers is not in the business of telling you the news. It's in the business of getting advertising revenue and making money. So they'll do anything possible to do that.
And they know that everybody loves a drama.
I mean, you've got to remember, the first thing to remember, though, is that asking prices and sale prices are not the same thing. So asking prices and sale prices, final sale prices, are not the same thing. If your home is 10% overpriced, then reduced by 10%. If your home is 10% overpriced, then it's reduced by 10%. Then isn't actually a sales price fall. And if asking prices increase, well, like Rightmove says, they have this month. It doesn't mean the sale prices have risen as well. That's quite interesting. So we'll put that in context. Even though Rightmove has said that asking prices have actually increased, and Rightmove actually said that this month, it doesn't mean to say the sale prices will rise as well. So what's actually happening? Thanks for asking, Andrea.
You're welcome. Well, the main thing that we know for sure is that the house prices haven't stalled and the market has changed. But, how's it going to affect people when they're going to be selling their home just now?
Yeah.
So you probably won't have queues of buyers down the street or multiple offers over your asking price, but you're unlikely to face that, on the home that you want to buy. So it works both ways, an absolute godsend compared to the stressful scrums that we had in 2022.
2022, you're absolutely right. And just to put that into context, it's a bit overwhelming to have everybody wanting to be in your house at the one time, and then all of a sudden you get everybody back out after all that stress that's been caused, and then nothing comes of it. Mostly, a lot of people are actually tire kickers. So it's how do you eliminate these tire kickers as well? How do you eliminate the people that just come to see your house, but they've probably no real intention of actually doing anything with it? Well, it's actually a proper qualifying process. So a proper qualifying process could eliminate these type of people. Genuinely, in some cases, they will be really interested in what your property is, but you can tell that. Yeah, a clever agent can actually tell that by the conversation that they've had, and match people with the right intentions and the right properties. Clever agent as well could clearly match someone with a property they didn't even actually think they wanted. That is a skill. That's a real skill. How often have you gone to see a house, or there'll be some people out there, they've gone to see a house with no intention of buying it, and then when we got to the end of the conversation, they'd made an offer. I've seen that happen before. I've had that happen before, right in front of me. They've just instantly, they've just got, right, we're going to make you an offer. Wow. Kind of didn't expect that, but I was working on that in order to turn you around. But I didn't expect it would work my magic that quickly.
Yeah. I was speaking to someone just last week whose property is just going on the market, not in the Fife area, but they're moving to the West Coast, and they are already starting to have appointments to view properties. And I said, you need to stop. You need to get your own house on the market and get an offer on it, and then go and view, because anybody that's letting you wander around your house, you are not in a position to buy at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think, you're saying it's all down to qualifying. And actually, that was one of the godsends of the pandemic, was that everybody really tightened up on who was allowed to go into other people's properties. And
I think the one as well that comes out of this is it's the qualification process also qualifies people before they get through the door. But there's no point in sending somebody through the door well, this is the pre-portal, for example. Pre-portal. So when we do a pre-portal launch, we often get people inquiring about the property. However, I always say in the pre-portal launch, if you can make an offer the seller can't refuse at this point in time, and you're in a position to proceed, there's the two qualifying criteria here. You could possibly get this property before anybody else gets it, before it goes to any other website, before it goes to a website at all even. Mm-hmm. You have to be in that position where you can proceed and you can make an offer the seller can't refuse. Or what's the point? Just get in line with everybody else when it hits the website.
Yeah.
Because if you send somebody through the door and then they make an offer and they really can't do anything because they've got a house to sell, there is no actual point of doing that, because then everybody else on the websites has actually missed out, and some of these people could have been in a position to proceed. So that's why it's important to understand what that process means and how to handle it effectively to get the best result. And there's no doubt about it. In the East Nuke last year, we achieved 90% of our properties went over the home report, and 11% was the average gained over the home report value. What does that say? 2 years ago, before that, a lot of the estate agents were crowing about the fact that they were getting 8%. We were getting 14%. We're not all the same. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah.
The best time to move is always probably when it's right for you. But in case you feel you've missed the boat by not selling last year, here's the 5 reasons that you could be better off selling when the price is actually cool. The first one for me is probably the downside of rising prices. Do you want to discuss this, Andrea?
Yeah, I do. And I've read the figures here, and I must admit, I'm not a mathematician at all. So to me, and to a layperson, it may not make much sense.
Yeah.
So I'll go through it here. So it's more expensive to move home when prices are rising if you're upsizing or upgrading to a property with a higher value than your current one. And here's why. So just say that your home was worth 400,000.
Yeah.
And the one that you want to buy 600,000.
Yeah.
If you wait to sell until the prices go up by say 10%, you'll sell for 40,000 more, but you'll pay an extra 60,000, and it leaves you 20,000.
A differential of 20,000 worse off.
Yeah.
That makes absolute sense, doesn't it? So if you're upgrading, you should be actually doing it now rather than actually waiting to see if prices will actually drop or go up. We did it at the beginning of the pandemic. Please, everybody out there, learn this lesson. We did this at the beginning of the pandemic, where you maybe might have been one of the people that actually held off on the premise that everybody was predicting that property prices would drop like a stone. We even had people coming in saying, we want to offer less now on the property than we had offered before. And we went, no, because we're predicting that the property prices are actually stabilise or they'll go up even.
Yeah. And
then every single person agreed with us and went, yeah, okay, we'll just pay the price we're getting. Weren't they lucky? I could have moved it up the way if that was the case. But it never dropped. So look at the amount of people that tried to hold off. It was upgrading, and actually the prices actually astronomically went up. I mean, property prices in the last 3 years in Fife have actually gone up 30.4%.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost a third. Imagine a third. A £300,000 house 3 years ago is now 400,000. And I know that because I've just put one on, and I've actually got offers at that level, if not more. And I've only just put it on.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the other downsides, if you hang off to sell your home, it could inflict you with higher mortgage payments and debt and less money to spend on the improvements that increase the value of your next home. And you could also discover that the forever home that you'd set your sights on is increased in value beyond your reach.
Yeah. So let's analyse that then. You could mean that higher mortgage payments and debt, less money to spend on improvements and increase the value of your next home. There's no doubt about it. We're getting told that the next base rate rise potentially could be the 2nd of February, which is when it gets announced. But there's no doubt in our mind, because the Bank of England governors and the ex-Bank of England governors, the ex-Bank of England governors, right, come out of the woodwork and make press releases about, I don't think it's going to change, and I don't think it's going to go up, and I think it is going to go up. They've been primed to do that by the existing establishment. I don't think anybody realised that. They've been primed to do that because they're still in the loop. They're maybe not in the limelight anymore, but they're still consulted to a degree. So they know, because they've got their ear to the ground as well, exactly what's going to happen next. So there's no doubt about it when they make these predictions and they talk about it in the news as the ex-Bank of England governor. They're more or less pre-warning everybody, or I wouldn't say warning, notifying everybody that there's either going to be a bank increase, decrease, or it's going to stay the same. But then it's right on the back of the Bank of England governor and coming out and saying the same thing. Now, it's clearly obvious at this point in time that inflation is a priority. Let me explain why inflation is the priority right now, and it has to be the priority, and why it should be the priority for everybody in this country or everybody in the world. If inflation goes up and prices go up, because all inflation doesn't push the prices up. Inflation is a measure of where the prices are actually going and where they've gone to. So when they're actually measured, the prices have actually gone up already. But if the prices go up, that means you've got to earn more money in your hand to buy that product, which means you've either got to get your boss to pay more money, or you've got to go out and earn more money and work harder and smarter to earn a lot more to afford that. Now, if that didn't go up in the first place, you wouldn't need to earn as much. Therefore, it wouldn't be as stressful to do that. Does that make sense? The only person that wins on inflation when prices go up and salaries go up is, guess who? The government, because they get more taxes. They get more taxes. And then when you spend more money on petrol, they get more revenue from the petrol taxes. So the government's in a win-win situation sometimes with that, but they realise the damage it does to the economy, but equally it will do a lot of damage to the people in there. Now, you could argue, oh, well, if my boss pays me more, therefore I'll be able to afford it. You're absolutely right. But guess what? If they pay you more, the price of their product is going to have to go up because they're going to have to absorb that into the cost of the production. So if the cost of production goes up, guess what goes up next? The prices. And then we're back to square one again. Prices, inflation have gone up again. You've got to get more money. You see the spiral? It goes up and up and up and up to the point where that's where you're coming, in Argentina and in the past in all these other countries where they've been walking about with barrel loads of notes in order to buy a pint of milk. Because inflation has eroded their whole economy and devalued their currency. So therefore, it takes them, now it was maybe 100 zlotys or whatever it is that they're needing to buy a pint of milk. Now it's almost 1 million zlotys, hence the reason why they're coming down with a barrel load of notes and their money's destroyed. It isn't worth what it was before. That's why inflation is the target here, and it's the primary target of the Chancellor. And he's already indicated in the next budget that we'll not be getting any tax incentives. That's no happening.
No. I've seen quite a fair few comments from small businesses on social media over the last couple of days saying that asking people to pay in cash because the charges that they're getting charged for using a credit card are phenomenal.
You're exactly right. It's convenience more than anything. It's just like Just Eat takes 30% or less straight off the top line of takeaways menu or their prices. When you order through Just Eat, and yet if you go straight to them, they get to keep that money, and that's exactly what happens with the money in your pocket. So eventually, at some point in time, this £10 note, God, I've had this for months. I very rarely carry money in my pocket. It's always card. See what I mean? This £10 note, and once it goes around all the shops, it will keep its value if I keep using cash because it's worth the £10. But what happens if I do it on a credit card? Or I do it in a debit card, the cost it takes possibly maybe 1% or 2% every time. So a £10 note and a 1% will actually, and for example, a £10 note and 1% will erode effectively in 100 transactions as it goes round. Think so. You get the drift.
Yeah.
So every time somebody else is taking a wee bit of that or that money, every shopkeeper it goes to, and that's why a lot of shopkeepers are going, just do cash. Please. To be honest, I think you're going to put off more customers by having to do cash because people like me don't carry cash really, and I would just go to another shop, because it means me having to go to the cash machine in order to try and save effectively 50 pence or 40
for someone else.
It's usually, well, it is actually, I think it's a minimum of 20 pence per transaction. I don't think it's that encumbrant. So in order to save 20 pence for someone else, it's like, I've got to go to the cash machine, get money out, carry it on me. I've got to walk it back and forward. And when I can just whip out a card and go, beep, that's it.
Yeah.
So it's convenience more than anything. It's just like Just Eat. It's just like Rightmove. It's just like Prime Location, Zoopla. It's one point. It's one place to get everything that you're after. So it's the convenience that drives it forward. So inflation is the target here, and they've clearly said their drive is to get that down to an economic halfway level at this year. Now, you said you could also discover that your forever home you'd set your sights on has increased in value beyond your reach. Also, you said as well, Andrea, if I can remember, higher mortgage payments and debt, less money to spend on improvements. Yeah, because interest rates are going up, possibly base rates will go up, mortgage rates will go up. So if you wait, then it's going to cost you more later on. Now, we proved if the average Fife person waited and if it went up, they would actually lose £27,300. And there's a blog on here or on our website actually demonstrating that clearly, if that's the case, just simply by waiting. And you could, you could price yourself at the market. The longer you wait, the less chance you've got to get in your dream home, because if circumstances change, you've got no chance. We have had people, few and far between now, but it could get more, having to pull out because they can't afford the mortgage anymore, because it has actually been reset and gone up. And when you remember, when you buy or make a commitment to buy the property, and to the point that you actually get the property, could be 3 to 4 months. Now, if the Bank of England is meeting 3 to 4 times within that period, and your mortgage rate isn't confirmed, it's like, that's what we can give you a decision in principle, by the way, and that's the rate right now. However, if it goes up in the next 4 months, we can't guarantee we can secure that for you. So you will have to pay the rate in 4 months' time. Yeah, that's what happens. So
I thought once you had your agreement in principle, that was
on
it.
some occasions, it doesn't happen. I'm doing it right now with investment strategies. I will be open to the elements when I go down the road of buying a portfolio, and it will take about 4 to 6 months potentially to get it over the line. So I'm open to interest rate fluctuations in the 4 to 6 months before they set that rate. And it could be by the end of the conversation, I might be in a position to say, look, this isn't going to work for me anymore because interest rates gone up far too high. So sooner rather than later is the question here. Right. So if like most people, you're moving home to trade up, the best financial outcome for you doesn't rest on selling at the top of the market. It rests on minimizing the gap between your selling and buying price to maximize your gain.
Yeah.
Less competition, isn't it, at this time of year as well?
Yeah, and when the prices rise, it's natural to think it's a perfect time to sell because the value of your home has never been higher. And it's a feeling that has actually gripped the nation. But there are some advantages when you don't follow the crowd. One of those being that there's usually fewer homes on the market when the prices cool, because many sellers let the lower valuation of their home cloud the opportunity to move on up.
I play on this every single time. What do I do every Christmas and New Year? Get your house on the market as quick as possible, because this is the time of year no one is putting their house on the market. You have got a golden opportunity for a huge audience to see your house at this point in time because of the lack of supply and also the lack of anything for anybody to do at that time of year. Yeah. Because everybody else switches off. And that's the biggest time I actually switch on and think, this is the golden opportunity to get everyone's attention. The person that gets the most attention makes the most money. Let's be honest. Look at Elon Musk. Most attention makes the most money. Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson. It follows. It's always been the case.
Jim Parker.
Well, I wouldn't say. Well, I do a wealth creation show, and I will be talking about that. But the wealth creation show on Monday, is going to be talking about how I lost my first million. And I'll tell you what, that's going to be some show. It's it'll be emotional. Put it that way. Mm-hmm. Definitely say that. So you're absolutely right, Andrea. When markets prices cool, because many sellers are letting the lower valuation, and there's fewer houses on the home as well. What other ones we've got to think about as well?
When your home's got less competition, it gets more attention from buyers on the property portals, and also your estate agent's website and social media.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not only people that are looking for houses that look at property. There's people, I mean, I do it myself. I'm not thinking of moving, and I'm forever looking at, and it's not just because I work within the property sector, but the amount of people that just like to have a nosy on the websites and see what latest trends are, and looking at the photographs and things like that in different areas. It's a pastime. So, and
exactly
it's just,
right. It comes up on people's phones all the time. This is the new television, by the way. It's like that, by the way. If you've got an agent that does phones like this and does video for a phone like this, it's like that. Most people just like Just Eat and they'll not phone the restaurant, and most people can't be bothered turning their phone this way because they always hold it and it's comfortable this way. See that hold? It's like if I have to do that, oh, it hurts my wrist. But genuinely, I make a joke out of that, but honestly, that's how people think. It's like I just want to have my phone like this. I don't want to have to do that because I've got to turn my wrist this way. It's like I just want it like that. Hence the reason why Samsung is so prevalent in developing vertical televisions. They're no daft. Even though we think it's, oh, well, how would you see all the vision in there? They'll just adapt to what they need to do. But most people now, look at TikTok. You can't put TikTok this way. It's only that way. And yet it's the biggest platform. And I'll digress here. It's blazing the trail of social media marketing, and it's blowing Instagram out the water. It's blowing Facebook out the water. It's blowing them all out the water. And why do you think there's such a well, I'm not really sure. Why do you think there's such an alienation of China? Because of things like TikTok. Because TikTok is affecting all American businesses. So why do you think there's so much animosity from America towards China? Because it's taken all the revenue that they would otherwise make on all these different platforms. It's like, hey, puppets. It's all you don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but that's what goes on, the conversations that are had.
Do you think that evolution, Jim, with evolution, that TVs are going to become vertical, like phones are vertical at the moment?
Look at advertisements right now.
Over thousands
on the side of bus stands. Look at advertisements in the airports. They're more or less all vertical, aren't they?
I haven't been to an airport in years, but
but they are, and so that's the way it is, because this takes up too much space. This is perfect space for doing everything. So even when it comes to an ergonomic home, this is why they'll possibly end up being like this for that reason. But then you've got the next evolution from that. It's like, let's get it off of there and let's get it into your head.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to end up with one eye in our forehead and one eye down here, and we're not going to look that way anymore.
You might even have it. Look. You might even have it right here when you're watching television in your glasses. And it is possible. I've seen that. I've seen the technology that does that, where you've got your television in your glasses, where you can do it. You've got your television or whatever you want to do, your heads-up display, and they do it right now in the weapons industry and jets and stuff like that. You've got heads-up display on your windscreen in your car. So there's no reason why they can't do it. It's just a projection onto a screen, and you get projections from, in a simplistic terms, even a clock. You get these projections onto your ceiling.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why it won't evolve to that. It just takes a matter of time for society to adopt that technology, and also for the powers that be to drive it that way and to all agree on a consistent policy of what they're going to do. Look at VHS 2000, Betamax, VHS, Laserdisc, CD, DVD. They're all now redundant.
Yeah.
They're redundant because they all, and Philips 2000. I mean, we used to watch that in school. The Philips 2000 recorder. Everything used to be recorded on a Philips 2000. Didn't they buy into the wrong technology? But that's
the 8-track cartridge cassette things you put in your car.
So
you've got them all sitting in your garage, Jim.
Yeah, probably. There's one thing consistent about technology, always moves on, and this is why having a proper digital strategy for a mobile phone in the vertical format is the way forward, and actually having talking pictures rather than silent movies. That's a different question.
Yeah.
So where are we?
Well, it's nicer when you're selling during a quiet time, because any agent will tell you that it's possible to have too many inquiries, viewings, and sales to manage, and that moving in a calmer market can be a much more relaxed experience. So we need to remember to focus on getting a sale rather than holding out for the last possible penny, and to
Yeah.
profit from the smaller gap between selling and your selling and buying price. You need to have a buyer in place to boost your bargaining power on your next home, which is what we said earlier, being in the right position for making your purchase. So do you want to tell us about the way that buyers act during this time?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. A much more calmer, relaxed sales market is quite good, because then it gives. The difficulty here is when you get a volume agent. This is the reason we're not a volume agent. We don't do lots and lots of properties. We're only doing bespoke service for a certain amount of people, and that's kind of what we want to manage, because it's easy, because we can follow up with things. We can actually qualify people properly in the beginning. If you get to a volume agent, what happens is the overwhelming from all the properties they've got coming in at once, the inquiries they've got coming in at once. They don't have the person power, people power. They don't have the labour hours to actually accommodate and look after all these inquiries. So that's why a lot of them actually don't get qualified properly, and they just open the floodgates and bust people through the door. Hence the reason why you scratch your head sometimes and think, God, if this person can't buy it, why are they here? I've just tidied up the whole house. I've just spent the last 24 hours getting this place ready, and they've sent to somebody that can't even buy the house. It's like, oh my God, or has not even got a mortgage. They're not even in a position to do anything, and I've just spent the last day scrubbing this place top to bottom, and I've got 15,000 kids, and they're going to destroy it in the next 3 hours. That's the sort of stress that people put themselves under because their agent isn't qualifying properly. So I definitely think it's nicer, and any agent will tell us it's possible, as you said, if you've got too many inquiries, viewings and sales to manage, moving a calmer market is a lot more relaxed. Mm-hmm. Because definitely. You can easily flow. You get the right people through the door and the right qualified people through the door. But there's this impression now, because we're so entrenched into it's got to be done now. It's got to be sold within a week. It's my house, and the people down the pub begin to tell you, your house will sell, no bother, and you begin to believe that stuff. But you should be asking them, what experience do you have at selling houses? Like, do you know the market right now? Do you understand the dynamics of doing this? No. But we still take other people's opinions that we value, don't we? Mm-hmm. But now I'm programmed completely straight away. It's like, yeah, you can give me your opinion if you want, but then I'll look at what is your background and what is your knowledge, and do you understand this market? And if the answer to that is no, then your opinion's probably worth nothing. Hate to say it, I'm just a straight talker shooting for the hip, but that's the reality. It's like like
somebody trying to give a chef.
People telling you that. I didn't get people telling me how to do my job. It's like you having a laugh. It's like I've been doing this for 30 years. I know everything there is in terms of technology, and you're telling me how to do something. And it's like I had somebody the other day saying we could add this, we could add that, and we could add this, and I went, okay. So how are you going to combat that when some of the websites actually interpret as ASCII characters? Oh, what are you talking about? Well, certain combinations, like an asterisk and a backslash, and in text, some websites interpret that as a carriage return, and actually puts the text down. In the past, haven't we? And it's like you can't do that because it causes immense problems with the website, the engines, the search engines, and it also causes huge problems with algorithms because they're like, whoa, wait a minute, you're trying to. Here's what the algorithms work out. You're trying to hoodwink us and get free advertising on the back of us for nothing. We want you to pay for it. So instantly that advertisement that you're doing for that property, the marketing you're doing for that property, because you've highlighted too much in capital letters. You've maybe put asterisks around everything. You've maybe put inverted commas around everything. As actually, they recognise that you're trying to get that to stand out, so therefore they downgrade you immediately in their search engines, because they recognise you're trying to get free advertising on the back of them. So you have to work out what that fine balance is, where you're just on the cusp of actually bordering on bending their rules and their guidelines about what you shouldn't be over excessive in to get your property seen, and also not doing too little, and therefore your property will never be seen. So so when you understand that mentality of how the search engines work and how everything works in terms of indexing and Google. I'm getting geeky now. And you'll probably get you're a bit geeky as well, Andrea. You don't mind me saying. But
it's glasses.
If you understand that, you'll get that straight away. But most people don't understand that, and they think as many bells and whistles as I can put on my listing, or I can get you to put on your listing for me, is going to get me more traction and more advertising. It's not. There's a fine line in between. So just remember to focus on, is what you said, Andrea. Remember to get your focus on getting a sale rather than holding out for the last possible penny. I've seen people actually arguing over 500 quid. And I'm like, so how long are you going to stay in the property? Oh, well, probably the next 20 years. So, okay, so you're going to jeopardize 500 quid to get your dream home for the next 20 years. And you have it, hello, McFly. McFly, think, McFly, think. But that's genuinely what happens sometimes. You know, we get so wrapped up in trying to squeeze it. I want as much out of this as possible. We just refuse to accept and acknowledge the fact of what the estate agent's actually saying to us. And yet they're the expert in their field, and they know exactly the numbers, and they see the bigger picture. We only see this microeconomic level, whereas they see the macro level. And it's the smaller gap. So to profit from it's the profit from the smaller gap between your selling and your buying price. You need to have a buyer in place to boost your bargaining power on your next home. Right. More certainty from buyers is one I'm going to cover. Right. Buyers act in a different. Buyers act very differently depending on the state of the property market. So when it's hot, they feel they should jump at every home they can get while they can get it. When it cools, they take their time to get a better understanding of what they're really like. And there are some really benefits to the slower approach. But probably one of the examples for me is offers that are really well thought through and based on certainty that your home is the one. You know, that's one. There's less chance of buyer's remorse when the euphoria of the winning the bid turns into the doubt about paying too much for the wrong home. Now, that is something that never ever happens with us. No one that buys a property from us gets to this stage where the euphoria of winning the bid turns around to actually thinking they paid too much for the home. Because the advice I would give everybody out there is, when you're making an offer and there's a closing date, we'll give the extreme example, there's a closing date. Everybody goes, you're just trying to get more money out of me. No, we're not trying to get more money out of you. We're trying to be fair on all parties. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, could you imagine if there's two people in the bidding, and this is you, and this is them. Now, we go to you, and we say, what's your best offer? Oh, well, it's 250,000. For a £230,000 property. And then we go to the other one and go, what's your best offer? And they go 255,000. And we go, right, you've got it. And then you go, wait a minute, I never even got a chance to counter that. But I did ask you what your best offer was, didn't I? And you told me it was 250,000, so I just took that at your word. But I could have offered more. That's what happens sometimes with some estate agents. And that's why predominantly we would use a closing date. It's not to elicit more money out of people. It's to be fair on all parties. And it also gives you the opportunity to pay the right price that you were going to be paying in the first place without being a skinflint. Because we're all like that, aren't we? We all think we can get a bargain. We all think we can get it cheaper. But on some occasions, as a result of what we think is like our it's like this, I've got to get it cheaper, or I've got to get a really good deal. we end up losing exactly what we wanted in the first place, and we were prepared to pay that. So when it comes to a closing date, my best advice for a closing date, when you have one, is pay the price that you're willing to pay. So if you do get it, you don't feel you've overpaid for it. But if you don't get it, then you feel you put your best foot forward and you made the right offer. That's what the price at a closing date should be. It shouldn't be, I'm going to pay as much as possible, regardless of the odds and regardless of my economic situation, because I want to win. It shouldn't be that. It should only be what it's worth to you and what you're willing to pay. So if you win or lose it, you'll not feel hard done by either way. And really, if you win or lose it, you'll because if you offer too little and you lose it, you'll go away with your head in your hands thinking, if I had offered the right price, I probably would have got it, which is probably the answer. It would have happened, because when you look at the final price when it comes through in the land registry, you go, oh my God, I was going to pay more than that and we missed out on this home. That's what a closing date is all about. So more certainty, less buyer's remorse, I would say, as a result. An acceptance that, the next one is probably an acceptance that even if property prices fall short in the short term, including someone who is buying your home, they'll always recover and risen beyond previous levels. I bought my house at the credit crunch when it dropped. I bought my house for 260,000. I then paid 100,000 refurbing it before I moved in, and it was 360,000 all in. The credit crunch came along and it dropped to 300,000. My house today is 450,000. You think I care it dropped? Not a jot, because it served its purpose. Plus the fact I'm still on the property ladder, because everybody else's properties actually decreased at the same time and increased at the same time as mine as well. So it's all relative. All I'm doing is securing my position to trade at the same level as everybody else to allow me to upgrade or downgrade. That's all I'm doing by buying a property. That's all you're doing. Yeah. For some people, you can build equity in it. That's fine over a period of time. But if you're going to do that, you don't continue to live in the big massive house. You then downgrade to a wee button Ben, and then release all the money and go and do what you want with it, or help your children or your grandchildren. That's the time that you would do it. But by then, for a lot of people, it's too late. Yeah, so I'm a big advocate of renting. And I will rent my next house. We bought it already. It is in a limited company owned by the children. So we will rent off our kids in a limited company. And so I've secured my position right now, and all the equity it builds from here in this property is actually money in the bank, because I've now secured my next property anyway. So I'm not using it to trade to another property, because I know where I'm going next anyway. So it makes no difference to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of people will say, oh, my house is, if prices drop, if there's another property crash, we'll have lost that. And I'll say, well, are you moving? Oh, no, we're going to be here for years and years. And so you've not lost anything, because you're sitting in it. It's still the same as when you bought it.
If anything, there's an argument. Kiyosaki argues all the time, and he says your house is a liability, because basically you're paying out on repairs and improvements every single day, and your entry and exit costs, if you're moving between a short period of time, it's astronomical in terms of your mortgage arrangement fees, in terms of your estate agent fees, in terms of your stamp duty, possibly in terms of your solicitor fees. So if you're going on a short period of time moving from one property to the next, you're actually probably better renting in that short term when it's got in a couple of years, because it's probably more beneficial for you, because you have no entry and exit costs, but you also have no liability to repair the property. It's all on the landlord now.
Yeah, and also on the upside of doing something like you said you've done, you'll rent from a property that your children own, or renting from anybody at that stage of your life in the older years, that if you do need to go into a nursing home, then you've not got they're not going to be able to make you sell your house to pay for your costs.
And all your money, if you've been smart enough, has been passed on to the next generation.
Yeah.
Before that gets there. That's exactly, or it could be possibly in a trust as well. To make sure it's secure. But also there's ways to mitigate as well. There's some really good, Mike Heimer, I think it is, does really good tax planning in terms of, or wealth planning, in terms of making sure your house is protected in case one of you goes into care, or to be taken for care costs, or to make sure it goes to the right people when you finally leave this earth. Because let's be honest, we're all going to leave at some point in time. Well, I'm not. I'm going to live forever. Well, I will live forever because I'll be in these videos. People will have to put up with me for the next 300 years. And I'll be away by then. I'll no need to put up with me at that time.
There was actually a huge error made by the BBC this week. I don't know about you. I know for sure you will not watch EastEnders, but one of the characters left her East End property, which is in Albert Square, to her granddaughter. And then the granddaughter got a 194,000 inheritance tax bill through the door. And everybody said, wait a minute. That must mean her house in East End's worth over $1 million. And they just hadn't done their sums. They hadn't asked an expert about what the things would be. So.
And that's what these tax planning experts do. And that's what your accountant can do as well. Specialist accountants can do that as well and plan out inheritance tax to make sure you're covered. A lot of people don't realise they automatically think the house is going to go to the children, but if you're over that banding for inheritance tax, you'll get I think it's 175,000. You get an exemption on the main house, and then everything after that is taxed. So you're literally taxed at 40% of everything.
Yeah,
that's millions, and I know what millions is. Because I would be nailed to the wall at this point in time if I put my clogs. Well, mind you, it would automatically pass to Elaine under spouse transfer, so none of it would be taxed for that reason. But then when Elaine goes, there's no, unless you marry someone else, that'll go to the next spouse. So unless you keep marrying, that's maybe why all these people marry somebody younger. That's maybe why people are marrying somebody younger, because it's like if they marry somebody younger that goes to them, they could live longer. Therefore, it'll keep to the family. And then that person then marries somebody younger, and then all that money keeps in the chain. That's maybe their justification for effectively a child bride. Although I never said that. All of this gives you more confidence in a smoother move and a fully committed buyer rather than someone who keeps an eye on the market for a home that might suit them more. And less competition is another one, isn't it, when you buy? So what is one of the biggest problems you face, Andrea?
Right. Well, one of the biggest problems that you face as a seller in a rising market is getting to view a home you want to buy if your own home isn't already sold, like we were talking about earlier. Estate agents are overrun with inquiries, and you simply can't compete with an ocean of buyers who are ready and waiting to go. So this can be extremely frustrating and frightening. What if I sell my home and can't find one to buy? And how many times have we heard that? I mean, I've had that conversation with my friend last week. That was her main thing.
Can I put that to bed straight away, that remark? What if I sell my home and I can't find one to buy? There will never be a case that you will sell your home and you won't have the next property to move to. It is practically impossible for that to happen. Impossible. But you need to speak to us about that, because it seems like nobody else has got nobody else understands how that works in terms of any other estate agent, to be honest.
I did say to her that your agent needs to manage your sale properly. And whoever your purchasers are, the sale needs to be agreed with either a long entry date to allow you time to find somewhere. I said, or take the pressure off yourself and temporarily rent somewhere over where you want to live, and you can have a look around without the stress. But you also get
the situation where the buyers are prepared to actually go into rented accommodation once they sell their house. Because sometimes the buyers have the house to sell, and therefore they're saying, well, okay, if mine sells first before yours, and you've still got somewhere else to go, and when we negotiate the very fact that, well, are you okay with going into rented accommodation? Absolutely. Okay, then we can consider your offer. That's all discussed before we even get to the seller to discuss it with them, because we already know their circumstances, know what their wishes are. So there's no point in going back and forward. The whole point of being an estate agent is to avoid your seller having to negotiate for themselves. But I don't know where it's lost, and this is why I became an estate agent in the first place. I don't know where it's lost with most estate agents, in the fact that when they get an offer or they get the conditions, they automatically just lift the phone to their seller and go, this is the offer and the conditions. What do you think, and what solutions would you have? It's like, wait a minute, that's what you're meant to be doing as an estate agent. That's what you're paid for. Or are you? I don't think they realise they're actually paid for that. I think they realise. I think they just think they're paid for putting a house on, getting somebody to buy it, and then they're quids in. No wonder no wonder estate agents are the fourth least respected profession in the UK. No wonder estate agents are the fourth most respected profession in the United States and in Australia. Because they do it like what we do it, like how I was trained by one of the top agents in the world, Century 21. That's exactly how I was trained, the American way. It's like manage the sale, understand the circumstances. Don't take that crap to your seller. You take all the hassle and all the stress. Then you take what's actually going to be doing or happening. Then you take it to your seller. So your seller doesn't get all the stress lumped on them to make the decisions. They got you as an estate agent in the first place to sort all that out for them before it got to you. It's like hiring. We as estate agents are like someone hiring a PA, someone to take all the flack and all the stress off them and work it out before the final result gets to them. That's what we are. That's what people are buying. They're buying that service. They're not buying, really. If you want to sell your house and you want to do it really cheap and you're not bothered about the hassle in between, you're okay with that hassle, go to doorsteps.co.uk. You'll get it for 99 quid. But you'll do all the work. You'll organise all the photographs. You'll organise the home report. You'll do the floor plan. Well, they even get a floor plan. You could do your own video. You could do your own talk-ups. Now that gets frightening, doesn't it? It's like, oh, wait a minute. How could you stand in front of a video and do a talk-up? That's exactly why we're here, for that very reason. Because we know that gets more traction than anybody else. We know that gets more traction on the social media channels and more engagement, a talk-up, than what we call a silent movie, which is just basically a video walkthrough. Even worse, a video walkthrough like this. Instead of that. Because even the algorithms don't like this as a video walkthrough. TikTok doesn't like this either. You just see a wee tiny thing on TikTok, a wee square, a wee oblong here on TikTok on the screen, and it's like I can't even see what I'm looking at here. It's like that's why we do this in this format, so you see the full thing and you see it in good detail, and you actually can see what you're seeing, rather than actually just going, I can't zoom in and out on that.
You need to do a new marketing campaign, Jim. Be like Tommy Cooper and get your Reed Fez on and do not like this, like this.
Just like that. Just not like that. Just like that. Most of the younger generation won't have a clue. Absolutely brilliant. A man that never really did any magic at all, and yet he was renowned for doing magic tricks, wasn't he?
He was amazing.
Glass bottle glass. So one of the biggest problems we face in selling in the rising market is getting your home to view and put its own. And as you said, estate agents overrun with inquiries again. There you go. They can only take a so amount, but if they're taking property on left, right, and centre, then it's difficult to actually manage all these inquiries coming in at once for that same amount of people. They've only got a finite amount of time in the day, so that's how often stuff falls through the net, and you don't actually get them to get back to you. This can be extremely frustrating, frightening. What if selling homes? What if I sell a home and they can't afford I can't find the one I want to buy? And we've just covered that straight away. Homes often sell as soon as they hit the market, and sometimes before that, when prices are rising. With multiple buyers fighting at every property, everyone in the home goes home to sell goes straight back to the back of the queue. So everyone with a home to sell goes straight to the back of the queue in that scenario. And as I said, what would be the point of me putting forward somebody that's not in a position to proceed at a pre-portal launch if everybody is waiting on it coming on the websites? So it's like, just get in line then. It's like priority access with BA. You'll pay up front, or you'll pay a privilege, or you have to be in a privileged position in order to get priority access onto the plane. So why should that not be for a home as well? Why should you not get priority access if you're in a position to proceed? Because you've made that effort to do that, and you can make an offer the seller can't refuse. That's exactly what pre-portal is all about.
Yeah.
So when the market changes, many people decide to hold off buying until prices rise again, which is what's happening now, and why the rental market is so expensive and competitive. Now, remember, I'll just say what I said here. When the market changes, many people decide to hold off buying until prices rise again.
I don't understand that.
Well, they do. They do every single time because they've got a house to sell as well, and they think, oh, if I can get X amount, but we've just covered that. And the fact that if you're upgrading and you wait for your house to increase by 10%, the next house is increasing by 10%, but because the next house is more, the differential in between is more that you're having to pay. Plus, interest rates will actually go up as well. So it's even worse. You're paying a lot more overall. With more manageable numbers of buyers, an estate agent can be more flexible in viewings for people who haven't yet found a buyer, giving you a chance to see more homes and make a considered choice. That's another one as well. When there's more manageable number of buyers, estate agents can actually take that time to do the viewings, arrange the viewings, and get you in more homes to be considered for you to consider for your choice. That's another one that rings true. I mean, it's a strange paradox that it can get harder to buy in a booming market because of the sheer volume of competition. Yet when things calm down, you can often have more time to find and actually secure your dream home. Fewer legal delays. That one we should, because you used to get involved in that all the time, didn't you? And you used to see all these things.
Yeah. Accepting an offer is cause for celebration. It's the first milestone of your move, but there's still a long way to go before any keys change hands. First, you need to get through the legal process, and that's where a booming market can get clogged up.
Yeah.
And it certainly does. I mean, if you've ever been in a solicitor's office when at the height of the market, their desks are piled high with files, all at different stages.
Well, here's a classic. We've got 30 properties in a portfolio going through, and the first response from our legal side was, we could process 30 properties in one day because we have the resources to do it, but we know the person on the other side has their solicitor. There's no way they could process 30 properties in one day to get this over the line. And that's a fundamental problem. It's just you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. I mean, massive sales volumes can swamp solicitors with cases, slowing down the speed of every transaction. And last year, the average time from an offer being accepted to moving day hit 5 months. Now, I think possibly that was more so south of the border.
I've seen it happen though. Remember when we get
it can happen here, with title disputes.
You get title disputes. You get sometimes the mortgage companies are taking far too long because there's so many transactions going through. We've got one now. The mortgage companies actually slowed it all down, and we're all ready to go. Everybody's in place, ready to exchange and actually exchange money. But the mortgage companies, we're overwhelmed. We're still overwhelmed. So
one of the other things
what does that tell us? What does that tell us, though, Andrea? We're getting told that the number of mortgages approved have actually dropped, but yet we're still got an under-resource in the mortgage system, and it's still causing a problem with housing. So what's the next one we'd need to consider?
Yeah, well, one thing that I was going to add into that, Jim, and another thing that can slow the whole process down is, when we qualify buyers, they'll say, oh yeah, I'm a cash buyer. And then they suddenly decide, once the offer's been accepted, we're going to apply for a remortgage on this one. And then that holds the whole thing up and say, wait a minute, no, you were a cash buyer, buy it cash. And then if you want to do a mortgage on it, redo that once you own the property.
So anyway, my best advice as well to a seller out there, make sure when you're told by your estate agent that they're a cash buyer, that it's cash in the bank ready to go, and it's not cash in a mortgage. Because often a lot of people actually interpret a mortgage as cash as well because they've not got a house to sell. So immediately they say they've got a house to sell, even though it's a mortgage and cash, they go, yeah, I'm a cash buyer. I'm ready to go. No, you're not ready to go. You've only got a decision in principle, and you've still got to get all the paperwork and approval and the valuation and everything else done for the bank and the standards of security put in place as well. So that's not ready to go. That takes a lot of time to do that. So again, that's another one to qualify. What's the next topic then?
The next topic on the
same thing happens in the mortgage market.
The lenders groan under the weight of applications, resulting in delays to processing times, and valuation appointments, and issuing the mortgage offers. But also, expiring mortgage offers can leave buyers in limbo if their lender won't simply extend their offer, and they may need to start all over again, perhaps a new lender or even a different home. I know that happened with one of our purchasers. It was taking so long it was a new build or a conversion, of a property, and by the time the property was nearly at the stage of being finished, I think they were about on their third lengthening of their mortgage offer.
Decision in principle.
Yeah.
So that's a tricky one as well. Often decision in principles will only last for 3 months, so just be aware of that. If your property is going to get over the line, or you're by that time, or you're going back to visit a property and it's maybe within a month or half a month of actually the decision in principle getting waived, you're better probably to see if it's okay still now, especially if you're wanting to be in a position to proceed. The last thing you want to do is I tell you what, the last thing you want to do is make an offer to an estate agent, and that offer's accepted, and you come back and say, oh, I've not got my decision in principle anymore, they won't allow it, so I'll have to withdraw. You have now instantly blacklisted yourself with every estate agent going, because you now will go through a more rigorous qualification process. So they don't get caught out in that again. Because you remember, estate agents are sticking their neck out every single day with a seller when they're taking offers to them and say, I've checked this, I've checked that, I've checked this. Well, some of them are. And we know that by experience, because I'm still waiting for other things. Three estate agents down the line to confirm for me if the person's actually a cash buyer mortgage, or they've still got something to sell, or to get what they're getting. So my one will actually happen and we can accept that offer. And I'm doing all that work for my client, and every other estate agent has no idea what the position their buyers are in. Hello? And we're all the same, really? All the same on the face.
Yeah, but none of this happens when the market slows down, because the legal process speeds up with a lower number of moves. So who knows what 2023 will bring, but estimates of 25% fewer sales in 2023 come true, your solicitor and mortgage lender will be able to work much faster. Do you think there's going to be 23% less sales, Jim?
I think potentially there'll be about 25% fewer sales, maybe right across the board in the whole of the UK. And Fife, I don't think that could be the case. However, only time will tell. The factors that we can't control is inflation, base rates, and mortgage approvals. And these are all factors outside our control. It doesn't matter about property prices. The health of a market is by the number of transactions, because the number of transactions means that more people are refurbing and improving properties, which means your contractors and your shops all locally benefit as a result. Therefore, money is pumped into the system from everybody that's buying these new these houses. That's the most important thing. That's why the health of the property market is all about transactions. It's not really about the property price. It is to you as a consumer, but it's not to the UK economy. The health is all about the number of transactions. I mean, as you say, the one last thing I would want to say is, when prices cool down, you need to get an agent to keep your head ahead of the market, so you can get sold, so you can negotiate the best deal for your next home. So quiz them thoroughly when they're sitting in front of you, and ask for evidence. Ask for evidence every single time. I think the valuation is so and so. Okay, so where do you come up with that valuation? How did you come to that valuation? Show me the evidence to say what that valuation is. They're not, some of these estate agents have just started yesterday, and they've got they've got a so-called qualification, and you don't need to have a qualification to be an estate agent. You just need to know the law, and you have to be registered with various bodies. So anybody can start any tomorrow. You've got loads of franchise systems out there which are starting people every other day. As estate agents, and I know that because I've been in this for all these years and I've seen it come and go. So anybody can start. So they, just for you to sit down there and think they're the expert, I wouldn't assume that. What I assume is makes an ass of you and me. So don't assume. Don't assume, definitely. You need to qualify people. You need to ask them these rigorous questions. Any estate agent worth their salt will look at the questions as positive, because it means you want to do something and do business with them. Hence the reason why you're trying to convince yourself that the person sitting in front of you, like me, is the person you want to do business with and do on your behalf. So I definitely think quiz them thoroughly and ask for evidence, show how much homes like yours are actually selling right now. Not, we sell the most amount of properties in your area. Who cares? What I want to know is, how much more do you achieve, and what time do you take to sell a property like mine on average, and the properties that you're actually selling right now? Because some estate agents, like, we sell the most. It's like, But I've got a 500,000 Victorian villa I'm selling, and you predominantly sell 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom flats in Methil and Buckhaven. And that's your thing. So you don't sell what I'm selling. I think that's the most important thing.
Mhm.
And let's stop it there then. Okay?
Yep.
Final
Jolly
word,
good.
quickly.
Just if you're going to sell, want to sell, do it now.
Do it now is always the answer. Okay? And bye-bye.